question becomes only like, how do you give that model and those ideas enough agency and tools to execute them, right? And this is what ultimately AI is and will be about. Like, you go to the software and say, like, here's what I'm selling. It tells you, like, here are 5 ideas on how to sell it. And you're like, oh, I like this one. Execute. And it's done. And like, this sounds crazy. And I think like people who will be listening to this, like, oh, I read those like shitty AI emails, never work. Trust me, like, give me 6 months and you'll see.
Yuri, what's up, my man? Okay, we're in. Sorry about that. That was a nightmare. Riverside's always like super freaking weird, but where are you at now, man? Are you in Ukraine? Are you in SF or?
No, I'm in Ukraine. I'm in Lviv.
Oh, you are in Lviv today. Okay, because you
Yes,
travel back and forth quite a bit, right?
I do.
So,
Yes.
yeah, nice, man. Well, good to see you again. Yeah, I was just chatting with Jake, who's a friend who runs procurement over at Vanta. So
Awesome.
yeah. So he gave us the sauce on how to work with procurement. So we'll get that one. So that might find that interesting, right? So that'll be a good one coming out right before yours. So
Awesome.
should be good, man. But dude, how's business going? How's everything going?
Business is great. I had like, I don't know, 9 demos today. And that's after we hired like 2 more account executives. So we have a total of 4 right now, including myself. And we're all fully booked. So people want this, like people want this pipeline on autopilot.
Yes, of course they do. We're gonna get into this here
Yeah.
because there's people who are like, yes, AISDR, they're going to be the future. There's all the haters. I come from outreach. So I'm like, look, right now, they're maybe not perfect, but like they're going to figure it out somehow.
Yeah.
But there's still going to need to be a human touch somehow. So, okay, actually, let's do this. Pretend I'm like your champion AE and I need a pipeline yesterday, right? And I need pipeline. All right, what's the 60-second playbook to spin up an AI SDR that actually books meetings? What's the
Like,
60? Yeah.
for you, my 60-second playbook would be connect your LinkedIn profile, and we
Yeah.
will basically scrape people who engage with your content on a regular basis, segment them by your ICP. So that could be like account executives or procurement experts at security companies like Venta, right? And
Yeah.
then we will reach out to them across email and LinkedIn saying like, hey, you seem to be interested. Thank you for engaging with my content. Is there anything more I can help you with? And this is how you will generate a ton of pipeline. This is how I'm doing it on my content. And it brings us like 5 demos every week at least.
Wow. Look at that. Okay. So there you go. Okay. So the strategy there is you need to be doing LinkedIn content though, which is obviously
Yes.
why people should do LinkedIn content, right? Like so I'm kind of doing this manually now, right? Which is where I look at people who engage, I send a DM real quick and I'm like, oh, hey, John, it's been a while, like, how you doing? And then I eventually get to like, hey, are you guys using a deal room yet over there? Like, what's going on,
Yeah.
So that is essentially, what we're doing, but you can automate that. And man,
But here's the cool thing, right? Like,
yeah.
you actually don't have to be doing LinkedIn content, but there have to be people in your space who are doing a ton of LinkedIn content.
Oh, so you
And you
can
can
use
basically steal
competitors.
from them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. I might do some of that too. Yeah, I might be doing some of that too. So, um, for my competitors, I love when they post content. To be honest with you, is especially if your product is like way superior. Every founder thinks their product's
Of
superior. Like,
course.
so give me a
Yeah.
break. Give me a break. But actually, we're way more superior. Okay. Um, so with that, I love it because I'm like, okay, cool. Like, keep doing it, man. Like, some people are like, oh, like they got so many likes. Like, I need to get that many likes. I'm like, no, dude, go viral, please. So that way I
Yeah.
get more people
I,
in the
I know
funnel.
that there are like competitors in my space who are targeting my content, right? But it's like what goes around comes around because I'm targeting their content as well,
Yeah.
right? That's like on
Oh,
both sides of.
dude, I got a screenshot the other day from one of my buddies who's a CRO at a big signal company you've probably heard of. Uh, I won't say the name, but he uh, he sent me a screenshot, and it was some random competitor. I've never heard of him, but they message him and say, "Hey, looks like you commented on Andy's stuff. Like, would you like to look at our
Yeah.
deal room?" And I'm like, "Oh no, like they're
See?
coming for me too, man. Like, like, oh gosh, what's going on here?" Yeah. So yeah, it is true. And I'm like, I can't be mad. I'm literally doing the same thing. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's part of the game, I guess. Okay. So Yuriy, another question I had for you because we did some homework before this. You went from a lawyer, right? You were a
Yes.
lawyer to then a VC-backed legal tech exit, and then now you're doing YC again for AI SDR, which is the AI SDR, like AISDR.com, which we'll talk about the ads later that
Yeah.
people search that and you come up, which is hilarious. Um, but when you're looking at all that, you've done a lot of outbound stuff, right? And what led you to kind of do the AI SDR thing here? Was it just opportunity, or like kind of give us the background there?
Yeah. So I can give you a longer or shorter version of the
Let's do
story.
the one, man.
Okay.
Let's hear it. Yeah.
So the long version of the story, right? So I was a lawyer. I hated manual legal processes, right? So I started Extract, my first company that was legal tech, to automate those manual legal processes, right? It was meant to be like a side gig. Never heard about SaaS before that. Never heard about venture before that. Never heard about Y Combinator before that. And kind of it grew into a venture-backed B2B SaaS kind of business that got acquired. So I sold Extract and kind of worked on sales after the acquisition. Again, had a lot of manual processes that I was dealing with. But there was also another kind of important point. After I sold the company, I was kind of soul searching a little bit, right? I was still running my company, but when you run the company after the acquisition, it's very different from before,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like you're much more laid back. So as
Yeah.
part of that, I started teaching a course at the university, right, on startups, right? And during that, I was telling like, hey guys, the biggest, greatest companies are always built when something that was not possible before is now possible because of the latest technology, right? Like this is what happened during dot-com bubble where everything became digital. Then kind of cloud came and like SaaS was born. Then like phones and location came and then like Ubers were born and a bunch of other solutions. And Extract, my first company, was not like that, right? It was solving a very old problem in a way that existed for a while, right? And I realized that very late in the process, right? But that idea kind of stayed with me. And then sold the company, managing the sales process for the acquiring business. And I'm having the same kind of experience that I had in legal, right? I have teams of SDRs, writing manual templates, having like syncs and one-on-ones of them, like, why are you not following up with this prospect relentlessly? Why don't you go and research that specific kind of company? Why don't you call them? Why don't you ping them on LinkedIn? Like, go do something, please. And they just don't want to, right? Because very often those are just like students out of college. They are still learning the ropes. They don't have deep understanding of the value prop of the business. And they want to get out of it. They want to become account executives, bring commission, and like be happy,
Sounds
right?
familiar. Yeah, that was me at one
Right?
point, by the way. Yeah, so I get it. Yes, yeah, and we're all now, right? Yes,
Yes.
yeah.
Right. And so I'm kind of working and mentoring and like working on ideas and it's just like an endless loop, right? Of course, you have stars like who outperform, like set an example for everyone out there, but the majority, like they just go through the motions, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then one day, ChatGPT comes out, right? And GPT-4 comes out. And I'm like, interesting, right? Like start playing around with it. And then during my kind of outbound work, I'm like, hey, create me an email. Like, this is what you know about this person. Create me an email. I'm like, okay, this is a good email, right? Then I go and create a sequence focused on like event invites, right? That sequence performs better than some of the sequences that my kind of human SDRs gonna run the same time. And then I read an article about the fact that GPT-4 was used to convince a person to basically run CAPTCHA for them, right? And it basically lied that it's can't see well, right? So please help me kind of pass this test, things like that. And I'm like, okay, if it's smart enough to convince a person to run CAPTCHA test for them, right? It probably means that it should be smart enough to handle an objection or answer a follow-up question about the product, right? You just have to give it necessary context. So what I go in, I basically spend a couple hours, right, building a very detailed prompt. Like, this is everything you need to know about my business. This is what we do. This is how we handle objections. This is like how you should work. And then I start kind of playing with it. And it just does an amazing job. Like, everything I wanted from a human SDR at some point in time, right? Yes, it's long-winded. Yes, you can tell that this is AI, but I have this aha moment that, like, okay, what I can do now is, instead of telling like 10 people every day, give them playbooks and train them on like what my product does, how I want you to communicate, how I want you to follow up, I can tell that once to AI, and it's going to follow that instruction forever. And then I have like the second realization that, oh my God, like, this is the moment I've been teaching at the university about. Like, a problem that could not have been solved for years now has a chance to be solved. And I'm like, do I really want to do this? Right? Because my first...
That's always the question. Yeah, you've done it before. If you realize, like, you know, am I going to spend 5-10 years of my life doing this? Like, yeah.
Right? Yeah. And my first term was very hard, man, like very hard. I remember, like, before we got acquired, there was a point like where I had all my credit cards maxed out because like I was paying myself like a super minimum salary just to kind of get by, because they wanted to have like my company to have more runway. Right? And I'm like, do you really want to do this again? And like, for context, like 6 months before that, or even less than that, probably 3 months, no, 6 months before that, like 5-6 months before that, I adopted a child. Like my wife and I, we adopted a child. Oh, wow. And I'm like, okay, I have a kid now. The country where I live is at war. I know it's going to be super hard. Like, and I have like a salary that pays like really, really well. And I don't have to do much, right? Because my company has been acquired.
Yeah.
And I spent like a couple weeks like just thinking about it. And I'm like, yeah, I just have to do it. Like, I will not forgive myself that I had this kind of chance handed to me. Like, I know what to do. I have a good idea kind of how to do it, because like, this is not an idea I read on the internet. I lived this for like 6 years. And I have this technology that makes it possible now, and the skills, because I've built and sold one company before. Like, I just cannot waste this. And that's kind of when I said, like, okay, I quit my well-paying kind of job at an acquiring company, applied to YC, and that's what started AI SDR.
Look at that. And big picture here, here's what I'm hearing, is when you want to, and I'll die on this hill, by the way, which is, when you're starting a company, my buddy, friends come to you, I'm sure they come to you, hey, I want to start a company, you've done it before, blah, 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 like, what should I do? And I'm like, find a problem that you have and solve that. Like, what in the business world, do B2B. I don't know anything about B2C, so I would say think B2B. What is something that drives you absolutely nuts, and build for that, because you will, I will die on this hill. That is always what I think most founders should build for. And like, all the best companies kind of always do that. That's like in my opinion, that's the common thread amongst all of them, right? Is like, they had the problem, they solve it. And why I say this is because, one, you understand the problem, right? And then two, you felt the pain, and there's something there about you having gone through that where it just continues to aggravate you. And you're like, okay, there has to be a better way. That's what I did with Distribute. That's what I did with Taplio. That's why I joined Outreach, when it was nothing, right, at the time. And so when it wasn't anything. And like, because I had that problem for each one of those. I joined, I'm like, ooh, I was just doing sales. I started to start my own company. And I was like, this should be automated. And this is pre-AI, right? And it was kind of like, and I wanted to build it. Some friends were like, no, go join this company. These guys are already doing that. They just raise funding. I'm like, great. Like, I'm going to go, right? And it just seems like your odds are just going to be way higher. I don't know, because startups in general, better than anyone. It's like, so it's gambling, like, 1% of companies make it past what, $1 million ARR or something like that. Like it's very freaking hard, man. And so, what makes it easier is knowing that you're kind of building for something that you've had a problem with. But, okay. Yuriy, now let's go through this. Let's talk to some playbooks with the AI SDRs, right? Because right now people are AI SDRs. If you've never used one, you probably never understand. What are some playbooks you've seen working with these AI SDRs right now? That you talked about the LinkedIn playbook, right? What are some other ones that you think are like, well, or that are like high response rates, right? For people out there that they should think about.
Yeah. So essentially, in a very kind of broad sense, there are four, right? First one is the LinkedIn one that I just mentioned. So like social signals on your profile, company profile, competitor profile, or influencers in your space. Works like a charm. Meetings booked rate depend on the industry and what you're selling, but I would say like 2 to 5% conversion to meeting booked, right? So like 100 people contacted, 2 to 5 meetings booked, which is good,
Amazing.
right?
Yeah, amazing. Yeah.
So second one is the one that everybody talks about, website visitor identification outreach, right? The trick there is you have to have traffic, right? Like if nobody visits your website, like
it's not going to work.
It's not going to work, right? Yeah. You can't kind of steal it. As you can with like social signals and kind of LinkedIn. Yeah. It has to be high intent, so like pricing, demo, that sort of stuff. And it has to be fast, right? Like where I see many companies failing is they have like signal-based software, and then they have like Clay to enrich and kind of find ICP, and then they wait a couple days to like add it to a sequence for SDRs to reach out. And this is as good as cold, right? Because they forgot about visiting your website at all, right? It needs to be fast. And you need to understand that there is a delay on the identification side software, which is like 2 to 4 hours, right? On the identification software. So once they identified and you narrow down, you have to reach out like now.
Yeah.
And then you have a chance to kind of convert them. If you do that, then like your demo page will convert probably like 3 to 7% what you've seen, depending on the traffic and kind of the price point ICP and the offer. Yeah. Your pricing and case studies page would convert at like 2 to 3%, I would say, like 1 to 3, 1.5 to 3. So that's basically how it's going to play out. But you have to have traffic, and you have traffic from the United States essentially, because in Europe it doesn't work. Yeah. And the company level identification is not even remotely as strong, even if you're kind of finding people who are your ICP within companies who visit, right? The third play is precise targeting. And this is actually something that I learned during the AI SDR, and most of this I learned actually during the AI SDR. I was very stupid and naive before I started this company in my understanding of outreach and sales, even though I've been doing this for 6 years.
Yeah. Well, we all usually are. I mean, to start a company, you have to be kind of stupid. So we're all dumb.
Yeah.
You start off really making a really dumb decision. But yeah, anyways. Yeah.
Yeah. So regarding the precise targeting, right? So I thought that like, okay, you can find leads in Apollo, like, I know, companies 500 to 1,000, this industry, this job title, like fire, right? Go. It doesn't convert anymore, right? Even if you understand your ICP, like it just does not convert anymore. You need to have like additional pain point filters, like using this technology, hiring for this position, campaigns that converted remarkably well for us in the past kind of few months are like, just to give you a reference point for specificity, manufacturing companies in Europe who focus on manufacturing thermal coffee cups and other accessories for coffee shops. How do you find that, right? Like, this is what Clay enabled initially, right? Because basically in Clay, you can say like, go have a Clay agent, go ask it to like read all the website and let me know if this is what they built. And we've kind of found a way to do this faster and similarly precise, right? And it converts, right? So for this specific customer, when we were targeting like manufacturing companies in Europe, the conversion rate was like 0.1. The moment we went to like this level of precision, it went up to 2%.
Wow, which is 20x essentially.
Exactly, right? Yeah. And then like the other example is reaching out to influencers who have like more than 10,000 followers on LinkedIn or more than 10,000 followers or viewers on videos on YouTube who talk about B2B, but don't use like this specific platform yet.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
The conversion rate on that one is like 10%.
Yeah, you actually showed me your metrics, and we'll put it up on the screen here. I'll have my we'll put it up on the screen during the editing. But yeah, you showed me your metrics, which was like, hey, here's from my content. It was like 10% reply rate or something crazy, or maybe more, right? Yeah.
Right. So those are the kind of three things. And I've spent so much time in the past year figuring out like how to get to that precision, right? Like we went through dozens of data vendors, dozens of kind of research field, and it's still improving, but we have a working prototype that gets you there, right? And this is when we saw the kind of conversion rates spike up, retention spike up. And then the fourth play is CRM related, right? So if you have a good kind of CRM database, then we can do a bunch of cool stuff with it, like closed loss reactivation, inbound lead qualification, pre and post event kind of invite and follow up, all of that sort of stuff. But 95% of companies that come to us, the idea is like, hey, we've been doing this, nothing worked. We are like 90% inbound. We want to start outbound, like help us, right? And that's the story. Because people who have pipeline from outbound don't go to AI SDRs because they're afraid it's going to break. People who have enough pipeline from inbound don't go to AI SDRs because, like, why would they? We have enough pipeline for inbound. People who don't have pipeline come to AI SDR because, like, maybe you can help, right? And this is like the biggest problem of the segment, because to help, you need to understand like what you're selling, who you're selling it to, what do they want to hear, and then layer all the tools that I mentioned to you above on top of that, right? And I spent so much time kind of figuring this out, and now I'm spending a ton of time building this, like productizing this essentially. And thing that makes me the most excited is that the LLMs are getting to the point where they will become better at like designing outreach strategy than, I would say, like 90% of outreach consultants out there.
I already feel like it's there today. If I'm being honest, I'm like, whoa, 03 specifically. I'm a big Claude guy, but 03 I'm on right now, and I'm like, oh my God.
It's mind blowing.
I'm like, this is how? Like how? I don't get it. And I had a friend show me Grok 3.5. He's on like the beta, and that too, we tested it. And I'm like, this is insane. I'm like, usually it'd give you a bunch of slop, you know, but like now you're right. It's like giving me stuff where I'm like, dude, it's coming for my job as a founder. Like, I don't even know what to do anymore. You know, like this is crazy, you know, like it's wild. Yeah. I 100% agree. Yeah.
And when we were there, right, like, and I agree, O3 is like 70-80% there, right? It does a great job, but still, like, some of the ideas I'm like, yeah, right? And I think the next model is going to surpass it for sure, right? And then the question becomes only like, how do you give that model and those ideas enough agency and tools to execute them, right? And this is what ultimately AI SDR is and will be about. Like, you go to the software and say, like, here's what I'm selling. It tells you, like, here are 5 ideas on how to sell it. And you're like, oh, I like this one. Execute. And it's done. And like, this sounds crazy. And I think like people who will be listening to this, like, oh, I've read those like shitty AI emails, never work. Trust me, like, give me 6 months and you'll see.
I just had Manny on the pod, Manny from Outreach, and
Yeah.
I asked my group chat, I'm like, hey, like, what does everyone want to know? And they're like, ask them about AI SDR, because we're both from background Outreach, kind of created the first SDR tooling, right? And like, we both agreed, and we said, look, are they perfect now? No, but is it going to get figured out by these companies? 100%. Like, it's going to, what I see it becoming, let me just take a step back. What I see it becoming is, and we kind of chatted about this before, in a previous call we had, but like, I see it becoming almost like all roads lead to it becoming, and people are going to think I'm crazy. I think all roads lead to it becoming almost like ads manager, Facebook ads manager, where you almost plug in like different creative ideas that are made with AI, and then you test them all against each other somehow, whether it's emails going out, bots calling, and then what you're doing is you're just constantly, okay, I'm doing this one campaign, right? I'm going to test this at the ad set level. And for those who've never run ads, just think of it like a campaign. I'm running a campaign. I'm going to test this. Okay, well, that's not hitting my metrics, which is I need a 1% response rate. Let's test another angle on the creative, which is just a copy, right? Oh, yep, this beat that. And you constantly are just trying to beat the control, right? And I think all roads kind of lead to that, because with also all these emails coming out, right? The inbox is essentially just, it's almost like ads at this point, right? You're looking at it and you're like, what stands out? What hits a pain point, right? And sure, humor and personalization and all that stuff, but like, I think that's where all roads lead, in my opinion, is almost like the Facebook, who's going to be like the cold outbound email ads man, or manager, right? And it's going to do the different testing for me. It's going to take the different variables, like, here's a subject line, and we're going to put it with this body, and then we're going to take this body, switch it with this subject line, and then the AI will do that automatically and find out what the perfect combination is. And I think that's where it's going. I don't know your thoughts on that, but I think the creative is where the magic is going to happen, which that is the copy.
Yes. But I actually would even take it a notch kind of further.
Okay.
Because the funnel, right, is like, has many tools, right? And essentially, like, over time, and I think like not long, like I think we're talking maybe 2 years, maybe 3. The approach is going to be like, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to run this like ad campaign, right? On Google Ads, whatever, right? GPT ads probably coming soon. And then kind of that is going to drive traffic to our website, which we will then kind of identify and then retarget across like email and LinkedIn. And this is what it's going to say, right? And then what it's going to offer is not like, hey, hop on a call, but a link that will lead you to like a web page with a value prop developed for you with a video avatar meeting you on that web page. Like, we're talking about a whole new level.
Wow.
Where everything is kind of orchestrated. And this is not far-fetched, because AI allows hyper-relevance, hyper-personalization at scale, right? Like, I can build a website just for you based on a prompt, right? Like what's limiting me to do that for all my prospects who I'm reaching out to, right? At this point, it's cost. Like it's too pricey, right? At some point, it just doesn't make sense. So people are doing this for account-based marketing, but the cost is going to go down. And then like, okay, they can go and read something, but like, why not talk to an AI avatar who can answer me my questions without selling, right? And then I don't need to be blasting everyone. I can be monitoring signals and then reaching out when they care, right? With a like, hey, here's a link with a website I built specifically for you with the avatar you can talk to about the problem you may be facing that will not tell you everything. Would you click? Why not? Right? And like this is where it's going. And I think the role of people there is going to be not very significant, right? It will be like, okay, this person is interested. They know a ton about my product. Let's put a human touch into that relationship, right? And then the question of where and when will you like interfere will be a question of the ACV of your contract, right? And like what is sold today at like $500 will be fully autopilot, right? What is probably sold at like 10, 20K will be fully autopilot. 100, 200K person will get involved, right? And I'm not even sure that creatives and ideas will be that important, because realistically, when I work with O3 today and I ask him like, give me 5 ideas for this thing, it gives me 3 ideas I thought of and 2 ideas I would never have thought of that are better than mine. And that's O3. 3 years from now, we're going to have like what, 06?
Yeah. 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 So you got a great point there, which is like, I'm thinking too small, man. That's what I'm hearing here, right? Like, but no, seriously, like the whole funnel, right? Of the understanding all the signals and in taking that and then knowing how to reach out at the perfect time, when to reach out at the perfect time, your entire journey, right? Which I think is like kind of what these signal platforms are like trying to do, right? But like you as a human have to decipher those, right? When comes the point where it's like, no, we're measuring all the signals, but now we can do the actions now based on all that, which is kind of what you're getting at, right? Which is like, now I should show them retargeting ads. Now I should do this. Now I should do that. And agentify it or whatever, you want to call it, right?
And it's going to be a gradual evolution, right?
Yeah.
Again, like outreach started, like we will do like mass email outreach. It was amazing at first. Then it started dropping, right? And then LinkedIn outreach became the thing. And then tools to automate LinkedIn outreach came out, right? And then like calls came back to basically be the best possible channel. And then signals came out, and then other things. So it's an ever evolving process of fighting for a prospect's attention in the age of like deteriorating channels and kind of over communication, right? And I don't imagine that we will ever get back to just, I don't know, going door to door.
Maybe it's a way to stand out though. Maybe it could be like, I don't know if people want, tech sales guys showing up at their door, but what's that saying that Elon has? Like, the most like ironic thing is always becomes true or something like that. Or like the most,
Maybe.
So maybe, I don't know, maybe it will be the way to stand out. Who knows, but anyways, going back to the point here, like we can orchestrate all the human thinking behind the screen and orchestrating that process, right, to a level that's personalized. And I also have I heard someone talking about like TV ads and stuff, and going like Google's thinking about this as well, right? Where they're basically even like on TV saying, how do we personalize ads for specific homes? And I'm like, oh my God, like YouTube TV. I'm like, that's crazy, right? Like I think now they do big areas like, oh, here, go to this Austin, right? But like individually, like, whoa, um, which is going to be crazy. In who knows where that's going, man? But it's kind of okay. Let's get back to some AI SDR stuff. So cold call versus cold email, Yuri. Where do you think like AI should own 100%, and where must like humans step in at this point in time? Right? Because we kind of know we talked about the future, but what do you think is like the, because AI SDRs are more geared towards a lot of email right now, right? So what's kind of the strategies that you've seen on cold email versus kind of cold call there?
So I would not trust AI to like cold call a customer, honestly, right? Yet, right? Uh, for two simple reasons, right? In the US and around the world generally, it's generally illegal, right? So you can get in trouble for that. But even kind of aside from that, there's still a latency issue. Like whatever anyone is telling you, there is latency issue, and you feel it, and you lose the prospect that way, right? And eventually, I think, and this is the reason like why AI SDR does not support calls, because I just don't believe in that, right? It's super easy to do these days. Like you can buy any API out there, but I just don't believe in it just yet. And I think like over time, it will become more suitable and kind of more active because voice will be the new interface for sure. Because it's just a lazy way to do stuff, right? Like when we want to do something fast and well, not fast, when we don't want to spend too much effort on something, we ask to like, hey, let's have a meeting instead of like, let me sit down and write an email to you where I explain everything, right? So, and then kind of on the email side, we run all of our campaigns fully autonomously. So AI replies automatically when somebody kind of is interested, answers follow-up questions, handle objections up until the meeting is booked. But I would say like 60% of our customers do that on full autonomy. The majority of customers still want to like step in the moment they get interest.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how I work too, right? Like I'm like, okay, we have like automated campaigns just like out of instantly or whatever, right? But we have to upload and do all that right now. And you can have it auto reply with like a subsequence or whatever, right? But I'm just like, I don't know, man. Like if they replied, like I'm just weary at this point. I'm sure it'll get better than I am, right? I know exactly what to say for that person based on all their LinkedIn and blah 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 blah. But like right now, I'm like, ooh, I'm gonna just reply. You know, it might take more time, but at least I have a little control. You know.
So I'll tell you like what's the biggest difference here. It's time to lead, right?
That's the big one.
So the person replied, right? And AI comes back like the person replied like tell me more, like tell me more. And AI replies saying like, oh sure, like here's like a few additional details, here's like a short demo video, and here's a link to book a call, right? The person is still in the inbox. The person acts on that.
Yeah.
The person responds, tell me more. And then you come back in a day because you were like back-to-back meetings all the day. It's as good as cold, right? You lost that opportunity because you weren't fast enough. And this is why like we designed AI SDR to be fully autonomous from the outset. Is it perfect? Not yet, right? But I'd say that it gets the conversation better than I would in 90% of cases, right? And I have like, I'm in AI. So my risk tolerance for AI doing the wrong stuff is like extremely high.
Because you're like showing your own product, right? So
exactly.
Yeah.
And like most people don't have that high of a tolerance, but it's going to get there, right? It's inevitable because speed to lead is more important.
It's true.
In my perspective.
It's a trade-off, right? It's almost like you're the trade-off is between your margin of error between saying the wrong thing and getting to them fast enough, right? And so yeah, and speed of lead is very important, right? I've never you know, even as a, like doing founder-led sales, which you've done, and just sales in general, it's like, if you're quick back to someone, they, without saying it, everyone's like, hell yeah, I appreciate that. You know,
Yeah.
like it goes a long way. And it kind of shows you how you're going to do business with them. I look at it like as a, not a first impression, but a second, a third, a 100th impression, right? Especially when you're trying to win the business, is like, you want to be on top of it so they know that, like, when they are doing business with you, if an issue occurs, this is what everyone's thinking in the back of their mind, that you're going to be there. And like, because everyone wants everything now, you know, that's the standard today, you know, freaking same day delivery, right? Like, if we can deliver a physical package in a day, you should be able to freaking respond to my, like, you know, note in a day. That's my kind of take, right, of what the standard is today.
For sure.
But you'd be surprised, man. Like, I was talking with someone, and I love LinkedIn. Who was I talking to yesterday? I forget, but they were filling out something to get like up, you know, buy like 50 seats of LinkedIn Sales Navigator. And they submitted a ticket, and it took 4 days for someone to get to them. And they were like ready to put their card down and like budget approved everything. Like, let's go. Just like send me the invoice or whatever. And it took them 4 days. And you're telling me that we can get a package delivered of anything I want on my doorstep the same freaking day. But like, you can't, when I'm trying to give you tens of thousands of dollars, you can't give it to me the same day. So yes, I think you can almost differentiate just on that speed, right? Which is interesting. Now, this is a good segue, because what I want to ask you, Yuriy, is, you know this better than there's. I feel like every day I'm seeing a new AI SDR come out. You guys got the best name, so you got that going for you, which is amazing, because it's like, I see this in Latin America. You know, when it's a taco shop, they're like, "What's the name of the taco shop? Tacos." You know, it's like,
yes,
what it is. You call it what it is, you know. And I'm like, okay, this is great. So for you, how are you combating this really as a founder, right? Like, all these competitors coming in, all this stuff, or how are you thinking about it, at least? Because we're getting into more, not just for you. I think the lesson is here for everyone. It's becoming more competitive in SaaS and software, right? So how are you thinking about, like, you know, I don't want to say building a moat. That's because then I'll sound like a VC, but you know, but how are you thinking about that?
Yeah. So it's a big question, right?
Yeah.
Like with
Of course.
with,
Of course.
with many kind of different aspects. So around naming, right? I Currently I feel that this has been so far the best decision I've made about this company. And it basically kind of rests on two assumptions, and which have been proven true, right? The first one is Paul Graham's advice on like naming a company, right? Which is name your company in a way that makes it relatively obvious what you do, and make sure the .com domain is available, right? He gave that advice many years ago, like .ai domains were not available at that point of time, or like even a point of consideration. But I still think that this holds true because of the second assumption. People buying this software will know what they want as a concept. Like, I want AI SDR, right?
Yeah.
And they won't know, in their majority, the brand names, and they will not know, they will still rely on .com extensions, because .ai is like brand new. 3 years from now, it's probably going to be like industry standard. Everything is going to be .ai. But we're still in an age where the decision makers are the .com guys and girls, right? Mm-hmm. Right. So when you think like AI SDR, like, you are reasonably likely to check out AISDR.com. Google knows that. So when you Google for AI SDR, it's going to show you the most relevant option, which is AISDR.com.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's going to hold true, I believe, for a while. And that means that every time my competitors are running ads, online or offline, people don't remember the name. They show up at my demo, right? Because, oh, I saw your billboard in New York. I'm like, that was not my billboard, but I'm happy you joined the book, you booked the demo.
Yes, yes.
I'm not kidding. It goes far beyond customers. I've had VCs, like big name VCs, book calls with me because they thought that I was the AI SDR company and enterprise company, and their portfolio was referring to, like, in a good way. That was not me.
Wow, this is wild. Yes.
Right? So it works like a charm, right? This has helped us like stay ahead, regardless of being not the most funded company in the space. And then like somebody that I hear very often, like, oh, you will be like brand diluted over time, right? Like, because everyone will be called an AI SDR and you're going to be like another one. But here's another thing, right? People come to me today and they say like, well, I've spoken to like all of these other AI SDR companies, but I can't make a decision before I speak to the original one. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. So because of the name,
yeah,
right? Because of the name, the assumption is like we are the one who kind of like invented the category, and everyone else are just like copycats, like Chinese fakes, right? So you cannot make a decision about this before talking to the original one. Mm-hmm. And like, I'm not lying, this happened on more than one call for me. So I think over time, this is going to be still like a big advantage for us, right?
Yeah.
And maybe I'm going to be wrong, but my vision for this is that basically it's more likely that other companies will stop using AI SDR because they would hate to like pay tribute to us.
Yeah.
Right. And they will think like, you can see this with Artisan already, right? They are calling themselves AI BDR, right? They are never mentioning AI SDR in their ads. They are calling themselves AI BDR. What they don't know is that I own that domain too.
Let's go. It's a redirect. Dude, this is amazing. Okay.
Right. Yeah. And I'm not spending too much time on it just yet, but it's coming. Right. And like my biggest concern is that at some point of time, somebody is going to get so pissed, they will come to me and say, like, you cannot call yourself like that, right? Like, you cannot call a tire company tires.com, right? Like, you have to have like, this is the brand category, but I think you're going to get ahead of it and you're going to learn about this pretty soon.
Oh, I love that, dude. This is hilarious. I love this because it's like, I see it's like the midwit meme, like the bell curve meme where it's like a midwit on one side, the ninja on the other, and then the bell curve. You should post about this. This is a great LinkedIn post for you, but it's like, call it what it is the midwit. The ninjas like call it what it is, and then everyone in the middle is like, come up with a cool, fun, funky name, blah 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 blah. And it's like, nope, call it what it is, dude. Like that's what I see going on here. It's like the perfect example of that midwit meme, in my eyes, right? It's like, when you,
great idea.
Yeah, like when you're starting out, you're like, oh yeah, just call it AISDR, and then, and just some validation for this too. You saw that Icon, like the AI ad maker thing, they bought, I think they spent $12 million on icon.com because they were like icon.ai or something. And they've only raised 25 million, right? But obviously they're making a lot of money, but they like half of what they've fundraised, they spent on just icon.com. And you're like, I don't think these guys are stupid, and it kind of just shows you that .com the weight, like you should still put on .com, because most people, when I'm on a call and we're like, oh, they're like, oh, they want to go to your website and be like, oh yeah, I saw something on your website. They're like, what is it? Distribute.com? And I'm like, no, distribute.so. I'm like, I don't have 100K for .com yet, but we have 100K. Well, not enough to spend 100K on .com. So I'm like, oh my gosh, soon. But I hope they don't listen to this and use it as a negotiation tactic. But um, but yes, so that is, you know, that's just, it goes back to basics almost.
Yeah,
You know,
and like OpenAI bought chat.com, right, for like 15 mil or something.
crazy. Yeah, and it just goes back because a lot of people, like if you ask my mom or my grandma or something, you know, they're gonna be like, "Oh, what is it? .com." They only know .com too. The people buying, right? Like,
Exactly.
probably assume like, and then there's almost this like judgment if you don't have the .com. You know, it's like, why isn't it .com? Like, why don't you have .com? You're like, well, you know, it's $1 million. You know,
Yeah.
and so I would love .com, but yeah, man. Well, Yuriy, this has been great, dude. This is amazing. I love this. We went through AI SDRs. We went through a very underrated play that you should run, naming conventions, which, dude, you should definitely harp on that more because I think it's hilarious and amazing. And people are trying to like strategize all this crazy stuff, and it's like, dude, call it what it is. So this has been great, man. And thank you for
Yeah.
jumping on, kind of giving us the lowdown on all this stuff. So
Yeah. No, thank you for the invitation. Appreciate
yeah,
it.
yeah, man.